Oh, okay. I got it out. No. Oh my God. Hi. It's time for math already. Okay. Well, yeah. I was just brushing my teeth. How long does it take you to brush your teeth? If I asked you that question, you probably wouldn't say it takes 2 minutes and 13 seconds to brush my teeth. No, you'd probably say something like, "Oh, it takes about 2 minutes," right? A lot of times in real life, we use about or we use estimates when we're talking about numbers. And so that's what we're going to work on this week. We're going to work on rounding numbers to friendly numbers that we can work with in our minds. So for example, if you say, "Yeah, I'll be right over to your house. It'll be about 20 minutes." Well, it's probably going to be like 18 minutes and 37 seconds. But you wouldn't say that. You say it's going to be about 20 minutes. You're using rounding there. And we use that all the time in real life. So let's work on that today.
So here's another real world example. Let's look at the number of students at Sunnycrest. If someone asked you, how many students go to your school? You wouldn't have to get the exact numbers and add them up. They'd just want a general number. They'd want an estimate. So you could quickly go through and say, okay, that's close to 100, that's close to 100, that's close to 100. All of these are pretty close to 100. And we have 6 grades here, so we have about 600 students at Sunnycrest. And for many situations in life, about is good enough. You just need to know, oh, we have about 600 students at Sunnycrest. So that's how rounding can help you. When you round, you are trying to change numbers into friendly numbers. Now, friendly numbers are numbers that are easy to work with in your head. So these are numbers like 10, say, or 100, or 1,000. These are numbers that you can easily do math with in your head. And it's not just these, you can have multiples of these numbers as well. So I would say that 30 is a friendly number, or 70. Just any multiple of 10 would be a friendly number, just like 200 would be a friendly number, 800 would be a friendly number. See, because they're right on a 10 or a 100 or even 1,000. 5,000 would be a friendly number. So when we're rounding, we're trying to get to friendly numbers so we can work with them more easily in our heads. So how do we decide which way to round? Let's say I'm trying to decide whether to round to 0 or 10. And the short answer here is that you just round to whichever number is closest. So for example, if I have 3 and I'm trying to round to the closest number, 0 or 10, well, 3 is closer to 0 than it is to 10, as you can see from the number line. It's only 3 away from 0, but it's 7 away from 10. So it's closer to 0. Likewise, 8 is closer to 10. It's only 2 away from 10, but it's 8 away from 0, so I'd round it to 10. So that's the short answer. When you're rounding, you just round to whichever number is closest. And remember last week we were talking about we have a base 10 system, right? So what's half of 10? Half of 10 is 5. Now that's very important when rounding because anything that is greater than 5 here is going to round to 10 automatically. You don't even need a number line to know that. And then any number that is less than 5 here is automatically closer to 0. You don't even need a number line for that. So 5 is like the magic number when you are looking at rounding because 5 splits every group of 10 right in half. But mathematicians have a problem with that because let's say you have 5 and you're trying to round it, 10 or 0 are friendlier numbers than 5, so we still might want to round 5, but it's right in the middle. So mathematicians solve this by saying, you know what, we're just going to always round up. We're just going to always round to the highest number if you've got a 5 or a number that's right in between your two rounding choices. So if you're right in the middle of your two rounding choices or higher, you round to the higher choice. If you're below the halfway point, you round to the lower choice. Now let's round an actual number to the nearest 10. Let's round 37 to the nearest 10. Well, we can't use this number line anymore because this number line only goes from 0 to 10. So if we're trying to round to the nearest 10, take a look at this number line. So this number line gives you all of your choices for when you're rounding to the nearest 10. So you have to figure out which two tens does 37 fit between. So here are all our choices: 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. Those are all the multiples of 10. So which two multiples does 37 fit between? 0 and 10? No. 10 and 20? No. 20 and 30? No. 30 and 40? Yes. 37 is more than 30, but less than 40. So instead of this chart, I can make a very similar chart. Then instead of 0 and 10, I have 30 and 40. So I'm going to zoom in on that section 30 and 40, and I've created this chart. And now I've filled in all of the numbers between 30 and 40. So it's important to know what's right in between 30 and 40. And remember, our magic number is 5, and sure enough, 35 is right in the middle. Just like 5 was in between 0 and 10, 35 is between 30 and 40. And you know that 37 is greater than 35, isn't it? 37 is right here. So 37 is closer to 40 than it is to 30. So 37 rounds up to 40. 37 rounded to the nearest 10 is 40. All right, I know you don't have a bunch of these number lines laying around, so let me show you how you can do it without one of these number lines. Let's stick with our same example, rounding 37 to the nearest 10. You can look at a number line like this, which I'll put on your seesaw assignment, so you can see which tens it fits between. We already know it fits between 30 and 40. So this is what you can do. On a piece of paper, you can make your own number line very quickly. Just make a line with two arrows. The arrows show that the numbers keep going in both directions. And then we know that 37 fits between 30 and 40. So you put a line at each end and put 30 at one end and 40 at the other end. Then it's important when rounding to know what's right in between them and 35. So if you fill your number line out like this, then you can decide, 37, I know 37 is more than 35. It would be about right there. And since 37 is greater than 35, it rounds to 40. So you can make a number line diagram just like that on a blank piece of paper. Okay, making a diagram like that might be a little new to you. So let's take another example. Let's round 82 to the nearest 10. So let's look at our tens, our possibilities. 82, it's much greater than 30, 40, 50, 60. Haha. Okay, 82, it's greater than 80, but less than 90. So it's right in between 80 and 90. So this is what you would do on your paper or whiteboard. Just draw a line and put an arrow at each end. And then it's between 80 and 90. So you write 80 on this far side, and then 90 on the right here. And then right in between, what comes right between 80 and 90? 85. Now you know that 82 must be less than 85. It would go about right here on the number line. So it would round to 80 if you're rounding to the nearest 10. So we were just rounding to the nearest 10, but if you have a larger number, you might want to round to the nearest 100. You could really round to any place value depending on what you want. So instead of that number line, we need this one. These are all the possibilities if we're rounding to the nearest 100. They're all the multiples of 100. So 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, or 1,000. Those are the possibilities when you round to the nearest 100. So let's look at one. Round 643 to the nearest 100. So first, what I need to do is I need to figure out which two hundreds would that number go between. Well, it's more than 100, it's more than 200, 643. So it's more than 600, but less than 700. So it's right in between these two. So just like before on your whiteboard or paper, you would just draw a number line with an arrow on each end, and then 643 becomes between 600 and 700. And then what's in between 600 and 700? Well, what's in between 0 and 100? 50, right? So the midpoint between 600 and 700 would be 650. There we go. Now that we have the midpoint, we know that any numbers less than 650 would round to 600. Any numbers greater than 650 would round to 700. Our number is 643. You can tell that 643 is just a little less because 43 is less than 50, right? We just focus in on the tens digit. 4 is a little less than 5 in the tens place. We were just comparing numbers last week. And so you know that 643 is going to round down to 600 because it's closer to 600 than it is to 700. 643 rounds to 600. Let's go through one more example. Let's round to the nearest 100 again. So here are my options for the hundreds that I'm going to round to. And let's say we'll round 263 to the nearest 100. So let me first look which hundreds 263 would go between. So 263 is more than 200 but less than 300. So between those two. On my paper, draw my line with an arrow on each end. And I know I'm going between 200 and 300. Again, what's right in the middle between 0 and 100? Half of 100 is 50. So half of this would be 250. So any numbers less than 250 would round down to 200. Any numbers greater than 250 round up to 300. And our number, 263, is greater than 250. It's about right here. So 263, since it's greater than 250, it's closer to 300 than 200. And that would round to 300.
Well, how do they look? They look okay. Just finished brushing my teeth. Today's magic word is teeth. Go put that word into your Seesaw assignment and turn it in. Great job.